Thank you, Carlos. Good morning. Welcome to All Faiths Unitarian Congregation. My name is Michelle Gemma, and I will be leading our service today. Here you will find a diverse, inclusive, spiritual community where we welcome people with many beliefs. You can bring your whole self, your full identity, your questioning mind, and that oh so expansive heart. At All Faiths, we have more than one way of experiencing the world in understanding the sacred. So no matter who you are, wherever you are on that spiritual journey, and no matter whom you love, you are truly welcome here. Is anyone here visiting for the first or second time? Please raise your hand. Welcome. We're so glad that you're here today with us. If you would be interested in knowing more about All Faiths, please see Fran Way. She's at the door back there. Hi, Fran, waving. And or you can ask any other member of our church. We're very welcoming. So I have several announcements. Tomorrow, we'll have a book club meeting at noon. Thursday will be at 10 o'clock. We'll have a care and support team meeting. Thursday and Friday, our office will be closed for Thanksgiving. No Domino's this week on Friday. Next Sunday, we'll have our own Emmy Spiller, yay. So there'll be no child and youth program. On Sundays, we have 9:15 with talk with Ray Ellis. And I have a few people that need to come up and say a few words. If I could have Anna Lee come up, please.
Good morning.
Good morning.
You sick of seeing me up here? Well, I just wanted to let you know how our collection last week went. We had 26 boxes of Swiss Miss, which comes to 230 individual cups of hot cocoa. We had 18 pounds of coffee and 20 cans of condensed milk. So, yay! Good show. I hope this will continue to be as joyful for everybody and as much fun. And also for the next 2 Sundays, I will offer my handmade Christmas cards for sale. They will be $2 each, and all the monies will go to Operation Joy. So bring your money. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Barbara, if you'd come up, please.
Hello, I'm Barb McFarland. I'm with the Hearts for the Homeless team. And I just want to remind everybody that All Faiths has a scheduled date with Habitat for Humanity to help build a home. And the date is January 7th. There's a sign-up sheet up there, but people also need to sign up on the Habitat site. And we'll send out that information. I know there's a lot of people here that are already rehabbing and working on their own homes that got destroyed, but we have 3 more spaces available for the Habitat team. And I'll be available after the service if people have questions. Thanks.
Thank you. And today, just a reminder, Barbara will be having her workshop here for the wills and estates, so stay after and chat with Barbara. If we could now rise in body or spirit, we'd like to sing together, Enter, Rejoice, and Come In.
Enter, rejoice, and come in. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your ears to the song. Open your ears to the song. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come in. Open your hearts, everyone. Open your hearts, everyone. afraid of some change. Today will be a joyful day. Enter, rejoice, and come
As Sharon Benner comes forward to light the chalice, please join me in reciting the words in your order of service. As we light our chalice, let us contemplate the ways in which we can express gratitude. Thank you. Now, could we just join as the children and youth go off to their studies with Kathy Fanny? Go now in peace.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go.
Good morning, everyone. It's so good to see all of you here on this rainy, breezy morning and cool morning in Florida. Just remember, in Buffalo, they've got 5 feet of snow. Okay, so today, this is a time when we share with each other the joys and sorrows of our lives, losses, additions. I always remind people it's so nice when we hear about babies and weddings and swell affairs. So please come up and share with us your joys and sorrows.
Starting out with a short joy, 2 of my foster bunnies and the shyest ones found homes yesterday, so we're really excited about that. And the second part is today is the 2022 Transgender Day of Remembrance. And back years ago when we first moved to Florida, I was on the Pride Southwest Florida board, and it was common to have 16 or 17 trans people murdered in hate crimes every year. And that was horrific enough. As a matter of fact, 75% of hate crime victims are trans women of color. The numbers have grown atrocious in the last few years, and I'm sure you can probably guess what the spike in those numbers coincide with. And as of today, this year, 32 trans people have been murdered in hate crimes. And though it might take a minute to read all 32, I would like to read those names if you don't mind. Tiffany Banks, Samaj Billingsley, AC Morrison, Maya Allen, Dee Dee Ricks, Maddie Hoffman, Aaron Lynch, Candy Reed, Hayden Davis, Maricela Castro, Cherry Bush, Keisha Chanel Getter, Martija Richmond, Kitty Monroe, Charmaine Giselle Marie, Brazil Johnson, Sasha Mason, Chanelica Dior Hemingway, Nidra Sequence Morris, Ray Muscat, Firm Feather, Ariana Mitchell, Mia Love Parker, Kenyatta Kesha Weber, Catherine Katie Newhouse, Tatiana LaBelle, Paloma Vasquez, Matthew Angelo Spempinato, Naomi Skinner, Cypress Ramos, Duval Princess, and Amari Leish. All of these people were murdered just for living authentically.
Thank you, Rachel. Does anyone else have a joy or sorrow that you'd like to share with us?
I'm going to start off with a sorrow.
I had to send my puppy on to puppy heaven that I adopted 10.5 years ago. And I put it out to the universe and said, I've got a revolving door in my heart. And within 2 weeks, I have a rescue who has fit in perfect and is working well. So the previous one is glad to be free of pain, and this one's glad to have a home. Thank you for sharing your joy and your sorrow. I can relate very much to that. I'm very much a dog person. Linda?
Thank you. See, this hat's got these buttons saying, thank you. Gators, Florida Gators. Every year they play football. Sometimes they play it well. Yesterday was not one of those times. They went to Nashville to play Vanderbilt. Good for Vanderbilt. They won. And they're apparently building their football team because they don't usually let us lose. So I'm sorrowful for that. Next week, we go to Tallahassee to play Florida State, and I'm thinking, whoa. So.
Linda's our Gators lady, in case you haven't discovered that yet. And now I'm lighting a candle for all of you who have joys and sorrows in your heart, and reach out to those who aren't able to be with us, and especially during the holiday seasons. If you've noticed that their people aren't here, give them a call and tell them you still care.
I'd like to ask everyone now to close your eyes, to take in a deep breath, and let us turn our minds and our hearts to today's service and to contemplate our blessings. Now, if we could rise in body or spirit as we sing together hymn number 123, Spirit of Life. The words are also on the back of your order of service if you need them.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the strings of compassion. Move in the wind, rise in the sea. Move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Our opening words today are from Owen Waters. Giving thanks is the expression of gratitude, and gratitude is one of the most beautiful secrets in spiritual life. Gratitude is an expression of love, and love is something which flows from the creator of the universe through all forms of life and all forms of manifestation. Without love, life in the universe cannot exist. Love is the universal force of preservation, which holds creation in manifestation.
My tea's gone cold, I'm wondering why. Got out of bed at all. The morning rain clouds up my window, and I can't sleep at all. Even if I could, it'll all be gray. Put your picture on my wall. It reminds me that it's not so bad, not so bad. I drank too much last night, got bills to pay. My head just fell with pain. I missed the bus and there'll be hell today. I'm late for work again, and even if I'm there, they'll all reply that I might not last the day. Then you call me and it's not so bad, not so bad. I want to thank you for giving me the best days of my life. Oh, just to be with you is having the best days of my life. Pushed the door at home at last, and I'm soaking through and through. Then you handed me a towel, and all I see is you. And even if my house falls down, I wouldn't have a clue, because you're near me. I wanna thank you for giving me the best days of my life. Oh, just to be with you is having the best days of my life. I want to thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. Today's reading is by Joy Ryan, President/CEO, Dakota Boys and Girls Ranch. Many years ago, I had the opportunity to hear a talk by Lou Holtz, the former head coach of numerous winning football teams. Sorry, Linda. Perhaps most memorably, the Notre Dame. Well, his message, as I remember it, was about how he stays enthusiastic, positive, and optimistic. He made the point that when you are not winning is when it is the most important to stay positive. The greatest lesson I took from the talk, however, was his commitment to writing thank you notes. His message was that being grateful is one of the best ways to remind yourself of all the good around you. It is just darn hard to be down when you start taking notes and writing all the notes of thank you and everything you're thankful for. At that time, Coach Holtz was committed to writing multiple thank you notes every day. He would write a note to the server and leave it on the restaurant table with his tip. He wrote to airline pilots and friends who had encouraged him and to his children. I took that to heart, and I made a decision to write at least 3 thank you notes a day, which I have done, albeit with some interruptions, for about 32 years. Now I have the added blessing of writing thank you notes to people who donate to Dakota Boys and Girls Ranch. Many of us here at the ranch share the responsibility to have an attitude of gratitude. It is part of my job I take very seriously and with honor. Each gift we receive represents the sweat of the brow, the dedicated thought, the spirit of altruism of a very special human. Although I probably would never meet many of the good people I write to, it fills my heart with warmth to consider the givers. The act of giving for the benefit of someone who has nothing to give in return is an intentional decision to look beyond oneself, to reach out and invest in the future of a child one will never know, simply because it is right. That's pretty cool. Thank you. Please rise in body and spirit as we sing "We Gather Together." Those words are also printed on the back of your order of service.
We gather together in joyful thanksgiving, acclaiming creation whose bounty we share. Both sorrow and gladness we find now in our living. We sing a hymn of praise to the life that we bear. We gather together to join in the journey, confirming, committing our passage to be a true affirmation in joy and tribulation, when bound to human care and hope, then we are free.
Gosh, my turn already. All right. Good morning, members and friends of all faiths. Good morning. It is a pleasure and an honor to be here this morning. Our theme this month, being November and the month of Thanksgiving, is gratitude and appreciation. Sometimes, maybe especially lately, those aren't our go-tos. At least they're not mine by nature. Although I have my moments of gratitude and even true joy, these days, sometimes my personal go-tos tend to be more like anxiety, frustration, occasionally just feeling numb, especially before my first cup of coffee every morning. It can be challenging to experience gratitude in tough times, especially as we watch the news, hear the stories of all the injustices in the world, perhaps experiencing disappointment after voting. And of course, not to mention the challenges that lately Mother Nature has provided, perhaps provoked by us humans. Pandemics, hurricanes, red tides, there's a lot of material out there to be concerned about. Then too, there are all the difficult things that happen in our own personal lives, illness and injury, financial setbacks, just feeling at times isolated or alone or overlooked, or maybe just overwhelmed. These are days when it can be really difficult to feel grateful. And I would be remiss in talking about Thanksgiving without mentioning that for the Native Americans, Thanksgiving holds an entirely different perspective. Since 1970, many Native Americans, particularly along the Upper East Coast, have instead held a national day of mourning on that day, reflecting on the genocide of millions, the theft of land, the oppression, and cultural suppression that exists even today. Though for Native Americans this is also a time of spiritual connection, I don't imagine that gratitude is the state that exists for them. It's certainly a different view of the holiday than opponents of teaching critical race theory in our schools would have us remember. As difficult as it may be, we cannot wait until everything is going well to practice gratitude. We cannot wait until there is no war, no poverty, no injustice, no terrorism. In other words, we cannot wait until all is well, until we are content and safe and secure. In fact, gratitude can be an act of defiance, a conscious decision to accept what is taking place in our lives and in the world as they are, and to choose to say thank you anyway. As I was preparing for this message, I was really struggling with the title. Maybe because I was struggling with the idea of gratitude in the present moment. One of the titles I considered, in fact, was Gratitude Anyway. The irony about gratitude is that sometimes we need to be able to summon it the most when we have the least reason for it. Think for a moment about the origins of the Thanksgiving holiday as we know about it today. Although it was celebrated in various forms in select communities for many years prior, it was first recognized as a national holiday by President Abraham Lincoln in 1863, in the depths of the Civil War. Unitarian Universalist minister Daniel Schatz noted that this was possibly the worst year in American history. 500,000 people had already been killed during the course of the war, 15% of our population. And no one knew where this destruction of life and of the nation itself was going to lead. Schatz writes, "The real spiritual discipline of thanksgiving is not to ignore suffering, but to fully acknowledge it, to work to alleviate it, and yet still give thanks. It is to find reason for gratitude even in pain or chaos. It is to look deeper into the fabric of our world and see blessings where we thought none could exist." He continues, "True thanksgiving is born of hardship as much as of joy, for it is in hardship that we realize and appreciate the foundations of our lives, the community and the spirit that keeps us going, the smallest blessings now thrown into relief, the tiniest seeds of hope that unfold in us when we thought all hope had fled. True thanksgiving looks at life in its fullness and finds reasons for gratitude." I believe that President Abraham Lincoln understood this. It's hard for me to imagine the depth of the pressure and the sorrow he had to confront during those dark days. Yet in his proclamation, he was able to give thanks for the harvests and for the strength and the fortitude of the American people in the midst of war and deprivation. He asked all of America to give thanks anyway, to defy the loss and the misery and the fear of wartime. It's an interesting read. I encourage you all to look up the Lincoln Thanksgiving Proclamation. To be able to shift the focus from the horrible to the good that still remains is a real gift. So how do the rest of us mere mortals find this gift, this ability to find gratitude in difficult times? Maybe that's why I chose the title that I finally did. For a long time, I believed that gratitude was an emotional state, a place of appreciating what I've been given. During the course of my own journey, I've come to understand maybe a deeper meaning of the word gratitude. Here's a quote from Henry Frederick Emile that I think expresses this very well. "Thankfulness is the beginning of gratitude. Gratitude is the completion of thankfulness. Thankfulness might consist merely of words. Gratitude is shown in acts." In my own personal journey, particularly in the years of my recovery from alcoholism and drug addiction, I was in a very dark place. I had some experiences through the help of spiritual advisors in my life at that time that had gone before me, and they helped me understand this concept. One of the first that I recall, I was on a road trip with a man who was practicing gratitude in his own life at a time when I was particularly unhappy. We had spent the night in a hotel on our way to this event, but I hadn't gotten much sleep that night as the carnival sideshow of my own life was running through my mind. I had those questions like, where was I going to live? And could I find a job? Am I even capable of keeping a job? These things were racing through my mind all night. Meanwhile, my friend had taken time to give thanks for all of the things going on in his life, and he was practicing his gratitude by many little acts of kindness that, of course, went completely unnoticed by me. I was being far too self-absorbed at the time. The next morning, I woke up to the smell of coffee. This man hates coffee, but he knew that I liked it, so he had taken the time to brew me a cup. He brought it over to me and said, "Good morning, sunshine. How are we feeling today?" I responded, "Terrible. Do you have any aspirin?" He just smiled. He fished out some ibuprofen out of his little toiletry bag, a glass of water from the bathroom. He brought those over to me in the bed, along with the coffee, and then he started laughing. And I didn't see anything particularly funny at that moment. So I asked, "What's so funny?" And he said, "You and I have something in common right now." And I said, "What's that?" And he said, "We're both thinking about you." It took me a moment to understand his point. But for him, gratitude wasn't just an emotional state, which we all know is very ephemeral in nature. I mean, emotions can quickly shift from one to the other. For him, a lasting sense of gratitude could only be accomplished through the small little acts that he did for others. I recently discovered a book called 29 Days. It's written by Cammie Walker, who writes about her experience in giving something away every day for 29 days and about how it impacted her life to focus on giving. Again, another read I recommend. 1 month after her wedding day, 33-year-old Cammie Walker was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, and the life that she knew changed forever. Cammie was soon in and out of LA's emergency rooms with alarming frequency as she battled the neurological condition that left her barely able to walk and put enormous stress on her marriage. Each day brought new negative thoughts. I'm going to end up in a wheelchair. My life is over. Why did this have to happen to me? Ever say that refrain? Oh, the times I've done that. As a remedy for her condition, Cammie received an uncommon prescription from a friend, an African medicine woman named Mabali Criazo. The prescription was to give away 29 gifts in 29 days. By giving, Mabali told her, you are focusing on what you have to offer others, inviting more abundance into your life. The gifts, she said, could be anything, but their giving had to be both authentic and mindful. At least one gift needed to be something she felt was scarce in her own life. Cammie was amazed by what unfolded during her month-long journey. On her website, she answers the question, why? Because to see the world change, we have to do something to change the world. Plus, the best way to attract abundance into your life is to be in a perpetual state of giving and gratitude. Be an important part of the global giving movement that inspires more generosity on our planet. When Cammie's spiritual advisor, Mabali, was asked the question in an interview what her prescription for Cammie had done in her own life, this was her response. It really opened up for me, and it showed me the flow through giving and receiving, and especially when we give from a place of scarcity, which is what happened with Cammie. She was feeling completely depleted. She felt she had nothing to give anybody because she was so ill, and then to find, what can I give, opens up something. There is an alchemy that happens. I call it alchemy or a magic that is happening that really allows flow. It takes us out of our scarcity and it takes us to abundance. One of the gifts I gave was to a homeless person, and I just finished work, and I was working with homeless people. So the last thing I wanted to do that night was to give to somebody else because I felt completely depleted. I went and I had to find this person. I gave her some food. It was about midnight. I went to find a restaurant. And something happened in that moment that I gave to this person. Everything that I had been worried about because I was going through a hard time myself, everything just fell away. And I realized how much I actually had. When we give to another, we realize how much we have. When I saw the homeless person, when I gave her the food, I realized, wow, I have somewhere to live, and I have so much. So it completely took me out of any self-pity that I was going through. I think the biggest gift is to part with something you don't think you can live without. That is the gift you have to give. Personally, I really like the word alchemy. It speaks of a mixture of science and magic that takes something that seems so worthless and transforms it into something so valuable. And it's the perfect word for the gift that gratitude can give. The spiritual advisor I mentioned of my own, as I struggled with recovery, asked me similarly, to do 3 good things for other people every day without letting anybody know about them, even him. Apparently, I was particularly ill. The point was not to get any credit for them, but to merely get out of myself and to add to the world around me. Now, given my ego, when thinking about doing anonymous acts of kindness, I immediately pictured in my mind's eye putting on a mask and a cape and saving children from burning buildings. And I remember thinking, boy, that's going to be tough to find 3 a day. I mean, I might have to set a couple fires myself. That, of course, is not what he had in mind. He suggested, well, maybe start smaller. He said things like, the little things, like, when you're in the grocery store and you're trying to decide, what can I afford to even buy for dinner? Maybe noticing that can of beans is pushed way back on the shelf and taking a moment to pull it to the front for the short person that might be coming down the aisle behind you later. It's amazing to me how such a small act of mindfulness, repeated regularly, can fill my heart with such a sense of gratitude for what I do have and shift my focus away from all the negativity in my life. A few weeks back, Michelle read a reading here that mentioned action is the perfect antidote to guilt. I agree, and I would add that it's also the perfect antidote to fear and self-pity, it turns out. At that point in my life, I was living in Duluth, Minnesota. It was a particularly cold winter. Well, they're all particularly cold in Duluth. I was living in one room at the Y. I had lost everything in a fire some weeks before. I had a part-time job in that same building as a night watchman, which is the perfect job, by the way, for somebody who's full of anxiety. What was that? What was that? What was that? You know, all night. It's great. And in that place, I thought I had nothing to give. You know, I really had nothing. But others had been generous to me, and one night I found that I had an extra blanket and a pillow, more than what I had needed. And the thought crossed my mind about my next door neighbor, brand new guy, sober even less than I was, maybe like a minute and a half, you know. Had nothing at all, just they had just put him in this empty room with a bed and a cot and a mattress. Now I should mention, I was at that point in my recovery what is called the missionary stage. That is when you know almost nothing about how to stay sober and you can't wait to share it with everybody. So I have to admit I used the blanket and the pillow as a pretext to go knock on his door and proselytize about all this wonderful journey of recovery. This is coming from the man who's living in the room next to him. I saw that same man some months later, still sober, moving ahead in his life as I was in mine, and he thanked me for that night. And he told me how much it moved him to make some positive changes in his own life. But here's the thing. He didn't remember a single word that I said. And in retrospect, that's probably a good thing. What he does remember, that on a cold night, someone brought him a pillow and a blanket. That little small act had such a ripple effect on us both. And I'm so very grateful for the man who showed me how to act that way. That same man taught me a small poem which I sometimes still recite. When I'm tired, but I can't sleep, I count my blessings instead of sheep. So this season of Thanksgiving, if gratitude seems to be an elusive thing, a state of being for you that's hard to get hold of, I'd like to recommend putting gratitude into action. Here are some suggestions. Excuse me. Start a gratitude journal. Make a gratitude list. Name 3 things every day that you are grateful for. Bring a meal to someone who is so busy nurturing others they may have neglected themselves. Soup and bread, by the way, are perfect things to share. If you shop online and you receive something that you like, take time to leave a positive review on their website or their social media page. They, as well as the next shopper, will appreciate that. Michelle mentioned sending a card. Send a thank you card, a card of appreciation, or just a thinking of you card to someone who's not expecting it. Inspire others. Take extra time to care, to smile, to say thank you, to open a door, maybe let a car out into traffic. Compliment someone on a job well done. Remember that smallest act can have such a tremendous ripple effect for them and for you. Remember the really bad times, the failures, the losses, the frustrations, and consider how they have improved since then. Move your focus to renewal and resiliency. Sometimes it's amazing the things we can recover from. Perform a random act of coffee kindness. When you're in line at the coffee counter or you're at the drive-thru, pay for the order for the person behind you. Your generosity will boost their mood and your own. Appreciate your pets. Take a few minutes to pet them, quietly enjoying their presence and just being grateful for their unconditional love. Publicly acknowledge the help and the support that others have given, maybe up here during joys and sorrows. Let them know that you noticed and that you appreciate it. If you have a passion, if something out there in this world of social inequity and climate change really gets under your skin, do something about it, even if it's small. Buy a refillable instead of a disposable. Join a committee. Be extra kind to someone you see that you believe is in an oppressed group or is going through a tough time. And don't let negative thinking like, this problem is so large, what difference will I make? Don't let that stop you. Trust me, you will make a difference. And lastly, if someone reaches out in kindness to help you, accept it gracefully and gratefully, not letting pride or shame get in the way. They may need that act of kindness as much as you do. Let it be so. This is the point in which we have our offertory. Our recent reverend was a big believer that a little bit of humor opens those wallets just a little bit wider. So it would be remiss for me to not carry on in that tradition. So a little humor. On the spirit of gratitude. A little old lady sold pretzels on the street corner for 50 cents each. Every day, a young lawyer would exit his office building at lunch, and as he passed her pretzel stand, he would leave 2 quarters. However, he never took a pretzel. This went on for nearly 5 years. Even though they never spoke, every day he'd leave 50 cents, they'd make eye contact, and she would nod her gratitude as he walked away without a pretzel. One day, as the lawyer passed her stand and laid down his 2 quarters, the pretzel woman finally spoke to him. She said, "Sir, I wanted you to know that I appreciate your business. You are my best customer, and you need to know something. The price of pretzels has gone up to 75 cents. Okay. Oh, that's right. I'm still up here, aren't I now? We're doing a thing.
Saying I love you is not the words I want to hear from you.
It's not that I want to, not to say, but if you only knew how easy it would be to show me how you feel. More than words is all you have to do to make it real. Then you wouldn't have to say that you love me, 'cause I'd already know. What would you do if my heart was torn in two? More than words to show you feel that your love for me is real. What would you say if I took those words away? Then you couldn't make things new just by saying I love you. La di da di da di da da. More than words. La di da di da. Now that I've tried to talk to you and make you understand, all you have to do is close your eyes and just reach out your hand and touch me. Hold me close, don't ever that you love me, 'cause I'd already know.
What would you do if my heart was torn in two? More than words to show
You feel that your love for me is real.
you say if I took those words away?
Then you couldn't make things new.
Just by saying I love you.
Wow, thank you guys. Our closing words today are by Tim Haley. Amid all the noise in our lives, we take this moment to sit in silence. We give thanks for another day. To give thanks for all those in our lives who have brought us warmth and love. We give thanks for the gift of life. We know we are on our pilgrimage here, but a brief moment in time. Let us open ourselves here, now, to the process of becoming more whole, of living more fully, of giving and forgiving more freely, of understanding more completely in meaning of our lives here on earth.
Thank you for being a friend. If you know the words, please sing along. Thank you for being a friend. Traveled down the road and back again. Your heart is true, you're a pal and a confidant. I'm not ashamed to say, I hope it always will stay this way. My hat is off, won't you stand up and take a bow? And if you threw a party, invited everyone you knew, you would see the biggest gift will be from me, and the card attached would say, thank you for being a friend. 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 If it's a car you lack, I'd surely buy you a Cadillac. Whatever you need, every time of the day or night. I'm not ashamed to say, I hope it always will stay this way. My hat is off, won't you stand up and take a bow? And when we both get older, with walking canes and hair of gray, have no fear, even though it's hardly here. I will stand real close and say, thank you for being a friend. Thank you for being a friend. I want to thank you. Thank you for being a friend. I want to thank you. Thank you for being a friend.
We want to give gratitude and appreciation today to Greg Monk for such an important message. That was wonderful. Thank you. We want to thank Carlos Garcia and also Greg again for the beautiful music. Sharon Gray on camera, Ed Elrod on sound, Joe Gayton, our sexton, Joyce Schaefer for the gorgeous flowers as always, Linda Bigelow for the delicious hospitality, and our friendly greeters. It is always great to be connected and to stay together in whatever way we can. If I may ask Sharon to come back up, Sharon Bennick. As you come forward to extinguish the flame, we will recite together. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world. Please have a happy Thanksgiving. However, we have a few little things. John's going to come up and give us the Life of the Congregation report.